waiting for.
And Dr.
Councillor
Spooner
Hunt.
has just
Councillor
appeared.
Hunt, yeah. It is 6 o'clock.
Away we go. Let me see if I've got an agenda somewhere.
Yeah, I think you probably need to keep to time tonight, don't you?
So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Planning Subcommittee of Hertford Town Council, Monday the 7th of September at 6 p.m. And first of all, I need to establish if the meeting is being recorded. And I see that we're live on YouTube, according to the Zoom messaging. Is that right, Nick?
Right, yeah.
And the message and the meeting is also being recorded. All right, we'll move on to item 2 on the agenda. Lost it again. Any apologies for absence?
No apologies for absence, Chairman.
So item 3 is just any declarations of interest.
Well, Mr. Chairman, could I just ask? I noticed Councillor Hunt is not with us again. Has he not given his apologies?
Nick, do we?
No, Councillor Newton, he hasn't had any apologies.
Okay.
Perhaps it's a matter to be taken outside the meeting, but we haven't seen a lot of Councillor Hunt of late, have we, Nick?
No, Chairman, we haven't.
No. All right. Perhaps I'll discuss that with you outside the meeting.
Yeah, will do.
Okay, so we move on to item 3, which is declarations of interest. At this point, I ought to declare that I have an interest in that the first application regarding land west of Mangrove Road. I live next door to that plot, so I'm going to sit back and say nothing regarding that application. And Councillor Newton has kindly agreed to chair that item. Yes, sorry, Councillor Ruffles.
Chairman, I would like to join you sitting out, but I will stay in the meeting to listen to that debate. It'll mean that I won't have 2 bites at the cherry because I'll be on the planning committee at East Herts when it comes there. Chairman, I've got a complication with paper E, the licence at Benjo Club. I don't know whether you're going to take, whether it's possible to take that at the very end of the agenda and for me to disappear, or for Nick to put me in a waiting room while you determine that. One of those 2 things.
I've got a feeling that rather a lot of us are members of that club, and really it's a very trivial matter.
Mm.
And the problem is, yes, I agree with Councillor Pinkham, but having said that, Councillor Ruffles, you know from your experience and from history,
Well,
if you're not clear, somebody always picks it up, don't they?
that's the difficulty, Chairman, and I have actually played quite a part in the running of the club, which I think is a little bit different from
just being a member.
Membership. Yeah, I no longer have a role there, but I still.
Okay, so just for the avoidance of doubt, Nick, I think it's Councillor Pinkham, Councillor Ruffles.
I'm also a member, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
But nobody really bothers about that.
Indeed, but just for transparency, we ought to note those interests. We move on to are there anyone else who has any declarations of interest? Sorry, before I move on. Right. So item 4 is just to approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 24th of August. So
I'm happy to propose, but there is one little correction. Towards the end in the speed strategy minute, at the end of that minute, which is at the end of the whole thing, there's a reference to Green Acres. That's not the name of the road, I think, that was intended. It's Green Coats.
Oh.
And there's a quirky spelling there. It's really meant to be green coats, like green overcoats, because it's the school uniform colour of the school that was formerly there. But actually, it is spelt by Highways as green coats with an E-T-E-S at the end.
Right. Nick, have you noted my my error?
I've noted that. Yep, I can amend that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we now move to matters arising from minutes not dealt with elsewhere. So that's action, that's paper A. Any
You didn't get a
updates for us,
seconder
Nick?
for the minutes. You didn't get a seconder for the minutes, Bob.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
I'm happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Newton. Do we need to vote on this, Nick?
Yes, that's correct. You can.
Yep.
Okay, so
Okay, great.
the minutes are accepted. Thank you for keeping me on the straight and narrow.
Sure.
Move to the next item, which is paper A, just any outstanding actions. Nick, are there any updates we need to be aware of?
Chairman, yep. So I circulated a few updates to the committee. So in terms of the burger box, I think the update is a site visit we will be undertaken soon by the planning officer. In terms of the rare breeds farm action, the committee may have seen the updated a brief update sent around. In summary, the case is ongoing. Site visits are being undertaken. Matters are being looked into. So there is action taking place by Tarts Planning Office.
Thank you very much.
Okay. The other update is in relation to Millhouse Ware Park. That's the planning inspectorate has been written to make them aware that we have had concerns expressed to us from members of the public. And in relation to St Mary's Lane and the old quarry, members may have seen the update come around. There are 2 historic planning permissions here, and they continue to be relevant. So there is planning permission given for that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, could I just say that with regards to Ware Park Mill House, Nick's done a letter which is brilliant. I have also written to the head of planning about the chalk bank, which is undergoing extensive excavation, and so I've asked Tarts Council to look into that, as many people are writing to me with grave concerns over it. So that's it.
Chairman, there's one development on the third one on the list, which is that the correction of that faulty pavement seems to be in progress today. There are traffic lights
Yes, indeed.
making that into a one-way street while they're working on what I hope is what we're asking for. But we better leave it on the list for a fortnight's time just to see if that's actually what's happening.
Yeah, they could put the lights up for a week, as we all know, and then disappear without having finished the job. All right. Thank you, Councillor Ruffles. Thank you, Councillor Newton. So is that everything regarding our action list then? So item 6 is questions and/or statements from members of the public, and I know that Dr. Spooner is here to speak regarding the first application of the land west of Mangrove Road, and so on that basis, I think it best that I sit back and ask Councillor Newton to lead this element, and then maybe deal with that application, which is the next item on paper C. Beg your pardon,
Thank you.
paper B.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So I see we're asking Dr. Sober to come and speak, and I can see him there. So Nick, are you going to do the 3 minutes timing? Nick, you're on mute.
Thanks, Chairman. Yeah, I can do. Let me just grab my timer. 1 second.
Sorry to be official, but rules is rules. Oh, poor Nick.
I'm happy to time it if you want.
Yeah. Who's that? No, oh, thanks, Nick. Sorry. Thank you.
That's all right.
So then please give permission as to when to start.
Okay. You can start now. Yeah.
Okay,
That's
thank
good.
you. I'd like to thank the committee for giving me this opportunity to speak today about the development of Mangrove Road by Carla Homes. And my general comment is we need new houses in the area, and Carla Homes seem to be a good builder, and the standard of the build looks to be high quality. I am a little concerned that the outline planning permission was for approximately 50 properties and they will be building 68, which feeding into a very small road, I think will create some issues. And you certainly see a lot of young families going to and from school now along Mangrove Road, where the pavement, whilst the developers looked at it and scraped away the leaves, is of the width they said it is. Most of the time it's about 2/3 of that width because the trees are not maintained. And it's quite a dangerous spot for those young children on scooters and bikes going to and from school. Also, I have some concerns about utilities. In Ashbourne Gardens, we have very low water pressure. So if we're going to have another 68 dwellings taking off water pressure, and the same thing goes for our broadband, that seems to go in and out quite a lot. So we just need to make sure that there's facilities for that. Personally, we live in number 23, which is overlooked by the new development. And we'd very much like to see some of the houses they call it 2.5 stories, but it appears to be very much like a 3rd story with full-sized windows overlooking the back of our house into our garden, into our kitchen and into our back bedroom, which doesn't seem to fit in with the spirit of what we were promised when we were consulted by delegates from Cala. I'm glad to see that there's going to be a lot of mature trees being preserved. I'm a bit disappointed that trees of 20, 30 years of age are described as in various derogatory ways. And it seems people are happy to take a chainsaw to them rather than trying to preserve as many of those existing trees in the development as possible. Whilst new trees can get planted, we all know that people who live in properties can find ways to lose those trees, and a young tree does not provide the same biodiversity as an aged tree. So I think trying to preserve some more of the older trees in the site would be very, very welcome. And I think that'll help with some of the water handling in the area as well. That covers most of what I really wanted to say. Obviously, wildlife is going to be important. That we have badgers, foxes.
You've got 17 seconds.
Okay, I will be putting a formal written response in, but thank you all for giving me this opportunity to give a spoken response.
Thank you very much indeed. You're very welcome to stay and listen to the debate or whatever you wish to do. All right, but thank you very much.
Councillor Newton.
Thank you. Okay, Nick. So are we going on to paper? Should we deal with this now? It's paper B, or have we missed something on the agenda? Let's have a see.
Paper B, correct. Yes, Chairman, we can go straight on to bring up the plans.
Which, yes, is obviously a Mangrove Road, and it's the erection of 68 dwellings, including affordable housing and associated parking, landscaping, open space and ancillary works with alterations to the existing access point on Mangrove Road and the creation of new access on Mangrove Road. Nick, give us a little chat about this, because this is part of the local plan, isn't it? And just to update members as to what we've got here and what we're being asked to look at.
Right, okay. Committee, so here is a plan of the site showing its location. You'll see there's Ashbourne Gardens there. And Mangrove Drive on the other side. And see the site heading down there towards, I think there's some tributary at the bottom, so it's down at the bottom there. If you just I'll bring up some of the plans of the detailed actual site plan. Just coming up here now. And site layout. Just hold on a second while site loads up. All right, so here we have the actual detailed version of how the properties will sit. You can see them facing out that way. Okay. In terms of the types of properties, I think I have a boundary height plan as well coming up. This shows here different size heights of the properties and where they sit as well. So just scroll across. There's a key to side. There you go. So the grey colour is 1 story, light blue 2 story, the dark blue 2.5, and the purpley colour is 3 stories. So it's a mix. So this is a 3-story building. I think these are the flats. This side here, mixture of 2 stories and 2.5 stories on this side, and down towards the end. Yeah, so I'd say again a mixture again throughout the site. Okay, in terms of the mixture of some of the variety of buildings, just trying to find the pictures of the buildings. One, right, let's move this one here. Freezing, I was looking for. So yeah, there we go. A mixture of the building types is shown in this plan here. I've got a few more of them. There's a mixture of family houses, family-sized houses, and there's one of the 2.5-story houses. So, and a further one here. Again, further details showing the types of houses proposed. Okay. And here's a block of flats, apartment blocks. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Oh yeah, if you do know, there are houses don't seem to have. I can't see any evidence of things like solar panels or extra things like chimneys on the buildings, just to make the committee aware. But maybe further detailed somewhere else in the documents.
Thank you very much, Nick. Well, obviously we'll invite comments.
Anything is okay.
Is that it, Nick?
There's more documents. If anyone specifically wishes to see more details on various aspects, let me know. I could find the relevant document.
Okay. Thank you very much. Could I just start with a very simple question, and then we lead it from there? The original plan was for 50 houses, and we have 68 now. You could say it's just once again one of those things where the developer wants to move onwards and upwards, and yet, because then they justify it by, are they affordable, 18 affordable houses? Is this what's actually been added in? Nick?
Let's have a look. I can details.
I mean, I don't know whether we can find the outline planning permission with its 50. Maybe we would have find out the difference.
Yeah, just trying to see if I can find that. Was that on here?
It might be on a previous version that
Where was that? I did see that somewhere. Yeah. So in terms of, this document here shows where the affordable housing is proposed. Let's see if we can find the previous one.
Because it just leads on that if you have now another 18 properties, and there's always a debate about adequate parking, because I'm sure everybody will come onto the road in due course that feeds into this and the school. It's sort of the density is something that we need to be comfortable with, or not. As the case may be.
It can be quite deceiving looking down on it like this. I think when we've seen the elevated pictures of the houses, it didn't look sort of that
These
crowd.
ones.
Just stuck along them, so as we've seen it before, Nick. There's a garage there, a couple of ones.
I mean, the designs these days are much better than the ones that we used to have to confront in the 60s, that's for sure. They're far more pleasing to the eye, which is something.
They do look the part. It's whether there are too many of them in one space.
I mean, dare we ask about the sustainability and all these sorts of things with this new development, and whether it meets what is not much in the way of criteria now, but will be going forward.
but I mean, clearly, I think there are a number of things about in sustainability terms. I mean, if you read it, they're actually sort of saying, well, it's important we get this in before the 2025 deadline, because that allows us to use gas central heating. And I think that from the town council's point of view, it's a pity. And they do say there's an option, which is to use a heat pump system. And I think that as a town council, we should be saying that that option would be much better from our point of view, rather than gas central heating, because from a sustainability point of view, that's certainly the case. I mean, the other thing that they leave out, I mean, all of these houses, or they say a large number of these dwellings are south facing, and yet they're only prepared to offer photovoltaics as an option to people, whereas they could be putting photovoltaics in as standard on these buildings, and I think that we should be saying that as well. I certainly think we should be saying that we would rather see no gas central heating on this estate.
Yes. Can I just support that by saying in section 2.1.8 it says we will take some stepping stones to the 2025 regulations. Well, that's very timid for a housing set of housing that has to be here for 100 years. So I would really support what Councillor Pinkham is saying, and gas is not the future.
I suppose the problem is 2025 is so far away that from the developers.
Well, it's not far away, because they won't complete these for, let's say, middle of next year at the earliest, and to try to jump the gun like this is not relevant.
That's a valid point, yeah.
And I also agree with Councillor Pinkham on solar energy, bearing in mind the site. I mean, I'm less concerned about the density, having seen the images, if the images are fair. but you know, a few solar panels could at least be shown to be seen to be willing, really. The other item I'd like to talk about is pedestrians, but I'll come back to it when you suggest that.
Can I say something about, I don't know if it's sustainability, but it's certainly something that I tend to bang on about, particularly with larger developments, and that is infrastructure. And it seems to me that when we've looked at large developments up to now, for the short time I've been on the council, the CCG, the health commissioners, have been asleep. They've been completely asleep. For the first time since I've been on the council, there's actually a comment from the CCG asking for Section 106 monies. And you'll see that when you look at that comment, what a huge amount of money it is in terms of primary and secondary care that would be required for a development of this scale. And it's really the sort of thing that has bothered me a lot about the developments in Hertford, where you know that the pressure, particularly primary care, is under in Hertford. And you know, I think that what we should be doing as a town council, part of our comments, is endorsing the CCG's position and saying, yes, indeed, we need that investment in infrastructure. One hopes, though I can't find any reference to it, that the education department are similarly saying, I mean, the developers say, oh gosh, there's, you know, it's very close to Simon Ball primary and secondary school. Well, I'll be delighted if any of the people here can get their kids into the primary school at Simon Ball, because most people can't, even those that live, you know, right up and next to it. It's completely over capacity, and I wonder whether the education service are going to make the same sort of comment. And then the other, of course, infrastructure issues is transport. Well, there isn't any in this part of town. It's a hell of a long walk to most of the facilities. They say, oh, well, it's only 1,000 meters to some of these things. 1,000 meters is a hell of a long way to go with your shopping when there aren't any buses and such like. So we're building in something here which means that people have to get in their cars even to go and shop in Hertford. Which I think is something that we should think about too.
Yeah, they're very valid points, actually. Nick, I'm hoping you are taking these down. Are you?
I'm making
They're
notes
all
of them.
quite relevant. They're quite relevant so far.
Yes,
I mean, sorry.
Chairman. Sorry, just to add, in terms of I know some further questions around the mix of affordable housing. Just sort of in terms of outlining what there is available. I think there's, in terms of affordable housing, there's 3 1-bed and 14 2-bed properties available. In terms of shared ownership, there's 5 2-bed and 2 3-bed properties. Just so the committee are aware in terms of how that mix of that. Okay.
The other thing, I mean, Councillor Pinkham's already alluded to it, the major road that goes by. It's a very narrow lane. It's next door to a school. What provision is or could be put on the work hours, the large lorries coming and going, making sure nobody parks in the road at all while construction's going on, and generally some thought as to really how it's all going to pan out if this goes ahead as it is. Has there been any comment, Nick, from anybody on that?
Chairman, no, I haven't had any comments from anyone as such on that matter.
Well, obviously, it would need some serious thought and conditions, I would say. And the other thing is, there is, and I haven't seen it on the maps yet, a sort of a bit of a green finger somewhere nearby, and I haven't picked it up yet.
It's to the left of this. Well, sorry, I should say to the west. The western part of the site remains green.
On screen.
Okay.
Can we pick up on Dr. Spooner's point about narrow pavements and pedestrians? Is this an appropriate time to do so?
Well, yes, traffic.
You mentioned the narrow lane, and the pavement is only on one side of the road, and beyond this development we have other houses, including up to Oak Grove, and beyond that we have the large campsite which brings tourists to Hertford. Now, along the London Road, the pavement has been expanded to the national standard of 2 meters to enable people to come from foxholes to the school walking safely. Now, with this development, which is in the East Herts plan, so I'm happy with that it's going to happen, but there must be an opportunity to provide a wide pavement, I would suggest, all the way along from the camping club past Oak Grove and onwards into town to marry up to the other footpaths into town. That's one option. And the other possibility, which it requires some cooperation with county highways and rights of way, is that Valley Close is a major footpath going into town. It's quite a direct route, and if you note the dotted lines that are on the screen at the moment, there is a great opportunity with a bit of planning and looking at Ashbourne Gardens to possibly create a footpath that directly links the Valley Close past All Saints into town via the Salisbury. So I think these are two options that need to be explored so that we can get people out of their cars and walking in the most direct route into and out of Hertford.
Yeah, 100% agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, the government's talking about people walking to school, children walking to school. So, I mean, that would be very valid at the moment, yeah.
Can I just then make another of the sort of points I tend to return to on these large developments, and that is to do with electric car charging points. I note from what the developers say that the people who have got garages on the estate, they're going to put charging points in those garages. Hooray! That's tremendous. And most of the houses do have garages, I note. But the block of flats just has a large parking area behind it. If you scan down a little bit, Nick, you can see there's a huge sort of parking area there for the primarily, I guess, for the block of flats. I'm not sure, and no electric charging. So people who live in those flats, mostly housing association tenants, I guess, have no way of charging their cars, whereas the rest of the residents do, because their garages are furnished with charging points. Now, this is just, frankly, it's just indolence. It's quite, obviously it drives up costs a little to put in the correct amperage of electric cables to allow some electric charging points out there on the car parking area, but it's just completely ignored. And I think that we ought to be commenting on that as well. It's not just electric cars for homeowners, it's everybody.
Chairman, I'm just looking at the plan here. It looks like I think most of social housing doesn't have a garage. So
Yeah,
again, it's just parking spaces. There's not just the flats. There's these houses here as well.
Yeah.
Well, it's worth making a note, Nick,
yeah,
on that.
I mean, you can still put, I'm sorry to keep going on, but I mean, all these houses have walls, external walls. I mean, it's the easiest thing in the world to fit charging points to those external walls of the housing. Probably the cheapest fitting you could ever make in those circumstances, which would allow those parking spaces, which are generous, to charge people, to people to be able to charge their cars.
Yeah, agreed. Yes, they really haven't thought about sustainability, or don't want to think about it, or and pedestrian movement, safe pedestrian movement.
Well, I think if we add these to our comments, because on the whole, I think as a development, and it is in the local strategic plan, so as a whole, I think this will go through. But these are certainly all worthy of note and feeding back in the hope that they will be taken on board as they move on up the planning process. Can I just go back to my green space and ask what is happening with that?
Being left alone is the way I read it. There's no plan for opening it up or anything. I don't think it's just.
It's going to stay as it is. There's nobody taking responsibility.
Well, that's what it says in the documents. It says it will be retained as a rough open space.
Okay, fair enough. As long as it's retained anyway in some format.
Yes,
that's not a problem. No.
Yes, but there is an opportunity to create a pleasant walk into town through there, which I think is worth investigating. I have to say, I'm pleased to see this as the affordable housing, and because of Simon Ball, perhaps, I know that these houses along the Mangrove Road command a premium. And as was mentioned, it is a quality, I expect the construction to be of high quality. Because of the premium pricing, there must be an opportunity, if they cannot do something sustainable with this premium pricing in a prime area compared to the other development areas, for example, in Seal, then where will they be able to create something sustainable? And it's not a long time before 2025 and another election, perhaps.
Good point made, Tony.
Indeed.
Indeed.
Does any?
It should be a model development.
Sorry.
I mean, it's right by Simon Ball. I know I've seen the prices of the houses being sold on Mangrove Road, and people are desperate because of the oversubscription of the school to get as close as they can, partly because it's inaccessible to drive to anyway. We have a logjam every single day, to live as close as they can to Simon Ball. So they are in high demand for families with children of school age.
I expect they will be, yeah.
And
therefore, is there anything new that we've not covered that anybody wants to add? Nick, is it possible for you to just read back the notes you've made from the comments?
Certainly, yeah. Okay, certainly, Chairman. So in terms of the comments made so far, the committee have some concerns in relation to the promotion of safe pedestrian movement in relation to the access to town and the narrow footpath, and we'd like to explore further options to promote walking and the options in terms of the footpath to Valley Close, and potentially widening the footpath along Mangrove Road. The promotion of sustainable energy sources, such as ground heat source and solar panels or solar photovoltaic panels, as a not as an option, but as a specified inclusion to ensure the development is sustainable to meet the 2025 target. I have, in relation to electric car charges, the committee is pleased that there are electric car charging points for garages, but would also require this to be for the block of flats and for other houses that don't have garages.
And the other points that I made right at the beginning, Nick, were around, no one seemed to argue with, were around endorsing the CCG's requirements for investment in the health services in town, and also hoping that the county was doing something similar in terms of school capacity.
Yes, yes. And finally, it was just to do with the conditions of working with regards to the traffic, construction traffic, their movements, and no parking in the roads. And yeah, that would be very important.
I'd be happy if Nick clears his final sort of version of this with Councillor Newton.
Yeah, we'll have a in case anything slips through the net.
Picking up on your last point, specifically, of course, no deliveries around school start and finish time.
Absolutely.
If they are as specific as possible, if they could be.
Yes, because that would be a disaster. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Is there anything else that anybody wants to say? Otherwise, on the whole, we're supportive of this application, but with the provisos that we have outlined so far. Anything else? Okay, Nick.
Am I allowed to mention trees?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, well, yes. Actually, yes. No, I'm all for trees. I agree with you totally. Anyone, Nick? I think we need to refer to the age of and the management of the trees.
Yes, I mean, specific on screening, I mean, the screening towards Mangrove Drive seems to be clearer than the screening towards Ashbourne Gardens. And it's difficult for us to judge from here, but a word about screening, perhaps, which should be added.
Yes, hopefully that's a given.
Yes, I know. That's why I didn't mention it before, but
yeah,
maybe as it was raised.
Yes, we'll check. Yeah. See what they're doing. Yes.
See, the other side, on Mangrove Lane, there's quite a clear row of trees.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Mangrove Drive, sorry, the side of the site.
Maybe that needs clarifying.
Yeah, because currently there are a lot of trees along that boundary, some of which have already been removed, and they plan to take a lot more out.
Oh, right.
Which is a bit unfortunate. Okay. Well, we'll add that, Nick, if that's all right with you, and we'll check after the meeting. Okay. Right, well, I think we can bring this to a close then. All right, Nick, you're on mute. But we're finished now, and thank you very much for that. And we'll move on to the next planning application. And we could invite back our chairman, couldn't we?
Yes.
Thank you,
I'd
Councillor.
like to say thank you for the opportunity for speaking.
Oh, well, thank you very much for taking the time to come. It's been
Thank you, Dr. Spooner.
Thank you.
Bye.
So the next application is 8 Greenways, I think.
Yeah.
Nick?
Yeah. Okay.
And that's a single and 2-story rear extension. Those of you who've had an opportunity to have a look at this property, it's quite an old, tired looking property at the moment. And on the whole, I actually think the proposals will actually will be an improvement. However, there is this roof light to the front elevation. I don't know whether that's anything that concerns us. Anyone like to comment? Perhaps you've got the oh, there's the elevation. Thank you.
Shall I comment or?
By all means, yes. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead.
it could be a lot worse. I mean, obviously, Councillor Ruffles and I will say on the negative side, there's a lot of chimney and a lot of some garden, but the profile could be a lot worse. And at least by keeping the profile as it is, they're keeping enough space to be able to drive off the road, because parking is a problem in greenways. So they are able to keep vehicles off the road and go down the side. So I haven't got major issues compared to other developments in that road.
Anyone else got any comments? Is that a no objection then?
No objection.
I would say so if everybody agrees.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nick, that's a no objection. We'll move on to paper C. And the first application is 1 Carday Close, is it? Is it pronounced Carday or?
Yeah, card
Close?
close. I know, yeah.
Yeah. And this is quite a substantial extension.
The
However,
gentrification of Seal.
I'm sorry? Oh, gentrification.
No,
Well,
Seal.
yes, don't want to believe all the computer imaging you want to see that they produce, but it's certainly quite a significant enlargement, but it is quite a large corner plot. And if you look at the existing, which is quite useful there, you can see it's got a fairly ugly garage, single-story sort of garage. And again, if you actually go and look at the property, it looks quite unbalanced. And the proposed elevation actually looks like a more rounded building, to be honest with you. I personally have
I agree with
no
the chairman.
objections.
I-
What about
Sorry?
any other comments? Sorry.
No, I think
No, I have no objection.
I agree with Councillor Lynch. It's a big site. It's a corner site. There is no loss of garage, and the other option might have been to knock that down and build 2 houses. And with the constraints on the road, I would much rather see 1 house on that site.
Well, next door is 1A, which I presume was their back garden. So they already sold off a plot to build 1A. So this tall vertical glass glazing at the front, above the front door, I don't know. I know it's all very much in vogue at the moment, isn't it? But as Councillor Pinkham said, gentrification, or Councillor Toega?
No, it wasn't me for once.
However, overall, I think are we agreed? No objection.
No objection.
I think so. Does everybody agree? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Nick. The next is 14 The Folly, which is in the conservation area. Obviously, it's one of these very narrow. I don't even know if it's a 2 up, 2 down. I'm not sure if they've got 2 bedrooms.
Yeah, I think they have, Chairman, and it's a corner plot again, isn't it? So
No, it's a mid terrace, I thought.
Is
Mid
it?
terrace.
Oh, yes, I'm thinking of 24. Sorry. Yeah.
And neighbours' comments have been generally positive. There's a cherry tree in the back garden that everyone's very concerned about. The neighbours, I mean, the loss of a cherry tree, but then the applicant has responded actually on the portal to say she has got 4 other fruit trees, and the garden is actually quite cluttered with fruit trees.
I saw the site as far as much as I could, and I would agree with the owner, actually. As much as I like to not see lots of trees, but the cherry tree, they do grow out, and they don't last forever either, but they do push roots out all over the place.
And she did say, actually, she had some neighbours saying it would be good to get rid of it because it is pushing up through the fences and the footpath at the back. The access footpath is apparently all the asphalt is being damaged by the roots and so on. So overall, I don't know whether we could just see that the elevations, the actual materials of construction, is quite difficult to read the elevations. I don't know whether anyone looked at the details.
It's not the best drawing, is it?
No, I don't know whether it's just quite low resolution in terms of the way it's been uploaded to the site. Good look at the elevation, Nick. So we really have to struggle to read the detailing. The block print there actually is as good as it gets, really. And it seems to be quite a cheap construction. It's a flat roof with a sort of membrane. I suppose
A rubber membrane, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, and a bit of felt, but I guess it's fairly low quality in terms of the build quality. But I can understand the need for more space there.
Yes.
Do we want to make any comment? I mean, it is conservation area. Can we comment about the poor quality?
Well, I was going to simply say that the committee should express a concern that materials should be consistent with the rest of the building. I mean, I think that would suit me.
Yeah, I could live with that.
It certainly has to be a flat roof, because otherwise it would block the windows.
Light, yeah. Nick, have you got that comment?
Yes, Chairman, I have.
And about the quality of the build of the materials
powder
being
coated
used.
aluminium slimline frame sections. I mean, is that what the rest of the? That doesn't sound much.
No, I mean it's going to look like one of those 70s sort of tracks.
So that's where I think we should. The aesthetics is important in a conservation area, so we should be saying it should reflect the construction of the rest of the building.
Indeed. You got that, Nick?
Yes, Chairman.
Yeah. So the next is 82 Hartingford Bury Road. So this is another, well, I'm going to say Victorian and then probably be corrected by Councillor Ruffles.
Edwardian.
Edwardian.
Sorry.
One of these tall townhouses on Hartingford Bury Road.
Yes.
And they're nice, good-looking properties. They applied earlier for dormers and an extension. We opposed it on the grounds of the height and impact on neighbours, but it was granted with conditions. So they've now come back and asked for a loft conversion with 2 flat roof rear dormers and then 3 Velux roof lights to the front elevation.
It's the front Velux roof lights that I find unacceptable, because it just the effect it has on the if you look at the row of houses there, it's just
there are no what do they call these things, roof lights on that row of houses, and so
that's
I agree
wrong, and it shouldn't be in the conservation area, and I've got no real issues with the dormers at the rear though. But that's it's my
I fully agree with Councillor Pinkham. That row of houses, the roof, exactly.
So the committee object to the addition of roof lights on the front elevation, which is not in keeping with any of the properties along this road in the conservation area. Yeah.
Chairman, if I could just add for your comfort, the neighbours who objected previously, and they made representation to us about the earlier application, are happy with this.
Thank you, Councillor Ruffles. I don't know whether they made any amendments. It did say amended plan, I think, when I look back at the old application. So whether they made
the dormer was bigger, wasn't it? It was protruding more. Now this one is halfway up the roof rather than all the way to the wall.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that's 82 Hartingford Bury dealt with. I think we can move on to 21 Brookside.
I was going to say I generally don't like front extensions, and it is in the conservation area, and it's ugly as sin what they're proposing to do. However, I mean, just up the road is identical.
That's exactly what I observed, that someone has done exactly the same thing. So it's basically they've got a little porch, I think, where the front door is currently, and they're proposing to extend that same sort of footprint, if you like, across the front of the whole frontage. The issue for me, and that's a useful image, if we could just have that, is that adjacent to them, next door to them, I think it might be number 19, that's a glass, a transparent glass front porch. So we're currently looking across towards number 21. You know, they can see there's some garden before there's this entrance porch. They're now going to be faced with a brick wall. And I'm not sure whether that's fair.
Well, I think there's also the issue of whether just because there's another one in the road which slipped through at some point or other, whether we just accept this, which is very, very ugly, what's being suggested.
I don't object in principle. It's just the impact on the neighbour that I've got a concern with.
Fair enough.
Does anyone else feel that we ought to?
I think it's worth saying about the impact on the neighbour. I think it's
Yes.
worth saying. You know, I'm not having a view one way or another really, but I do think the impact on the neighbour is worth mentioning.
Yeah.
And Chairman, each case on its merits, and I take Councillor Pinkham's point that we don't know the planning status of the other porch. It may be, I don't think it is, but it may be enforcement action or something like that is happening. It isn't.
Right.
I think if we don't like this, we should say so and not just say, well, someone else has done something up the road, it must be all right.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
Could we just check the elevation? I can't remember whether it's a pitched roof or whether it's a flat roof. I think it's pitched, isn't it? Let's have a look. Oh, it is a pitched roof, isn't it?
Pitched with windows in it.
Well, I can't see the windows in that view.
That's the existing, isn't it? Where's
Yeah, that's existing.
Oh, okay.
Let's see the.
Oh, yeah. Where's the proposed?
You find the proposed, Nick. There you are. You see, it's
That's
got
the proposed.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It
They
really
put
is
those
pretty-
roof lights into
pretty
the.
awful, actually, compared to what's there at present. It's pretty horrible.
Okay, so Nick, the committee object to the design.
They don't need those roof lights. They're completely unnecessary.
Yeah, of this front extension.
Those rooms are lit from the front. They don't need those lights.
And see no need for roof lights in the extension.
Yeah.
We're also concerned about the impact on the neighbouring property, which has a glass porchway. Will result in a loss of amenity. Okay, we'll move on to another one we're going to love. Eli, is it, or Ellie? 40 Watermill Lane. So this was refused. I'm not sure we actually considered it, but it looks like there's an earlier application that was refused by the planners on the grounds that the scale was too large for the. It is in a greenbelt area. And I can't see the difference between this new application and the last one, but we didn't comment on the last one. The current property is a very large modern building. I don't know if anyone knows sort of the end of Watermill Lane, and they've got gates and so on, you know, so sort of their own private gates into this quite large site. And as you can see, it's sort of got this sort of, what do you call the wooden slats that they've got across.
Mock Tudor.
Really see it.
Tudor style, is it?
I mean, it's a little bit hidden away, so it doesn't really impact on anybody. Well, on the fields.
It's there. It's on the track part of the road rather than the made up part, but it's there.
Yeah.
And it's it's quite well used, that pathway, so people will see it.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Um,
It illuminates the field as well with all the grid.
Say about the field at the back.
The damage has already been done, basically.
Yes,
Just look at it.
indeed. They're planning to convert that double garage into storage. I'm not quite sure what that means.
It means it's first stage towards something else.
yeah.
Couldn't disagree. Do we want to get involved, or should we leave it for the planners to pick up where they left off?
Yeah,
Yeah, for the planners.
Yeah.
yeah.
Is that a no comment?
The planners can deal with it.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a no comment there, Nick.
Yeah.
And now we move on to 4143 St Andrew Street, which is of course the old Beckwiths.
Wow.
I know.
Wow, yes, indeed.
And if you read the design and access statement, I actually have some sympathy for them. They've been trying to let it for some time now. And 2016, I think they say that Beckwiths
Yes.
moved out.
My daughter once lived there on the at the under the ceiling, as it were.
Well, they're proposing to retain the ground floor retail space, but
Oh,
they want to
Yeah.
modernise and
Yeah, I found out that the Brothership, that art collective, wants it.
yes.
Which is interesting. I think that's something we shouldn't worry us. I thought this was all right, actually, in broad terms. But
In broad terms, I thought it was all right. I don't know.
Yes.
Councillor Ruffles is
Well,
our.
yeah, no, Chairman, I'm in very broad terms, very broadly supportive, but it's the hall bit that we're now looking at.
Yes.
yeah,
And the additional lighting there, the windows there,
Yes.
Roof lights in particular. Yeah.
The three between the triangular ones.
Yeah, I think they're worth considering, as it were. I've got a bit of a problem there, but not in terms of the use of the front part that's proposed upstairs and then retail downstairs. And then there is just off the picture as we're looking at it now, what is normally called the annex at the back, which Beckwith's had as a workshop, was once a school classroom. And that's incorporated in this bit of it. And this that we're looking at is to be residential. And I think that's a satisfactory for me ongoing use, a very interesting one. But I'd be happy with it. I did actually sell it, the whole of the building once, but it wasn't actually mine to sell. When I was church warden, it was church property. And so I was the legal owner with my partner, and we sold it to Beckwiths, the whole block, for £9,000, and built the church hall at the back of the church, which is a pocket handkerchief, and spent the whole of the 9,000 on the new build. So I know the complex really, really well in all sorts of ways, including having gone to school in the classroom at the back. But I think this is a satisfactory proposal.
It's going to remain protected as a building, is it not?
Yes.
Yes.
I walk past there regularly. I've been concerned about the owner having to repair. I've seen various repairs being done to the roof, and I've been worried about the site falling into disrepair. And the only comment I would make is that obviously the heritage people will want to observe the builders, and I would very much like it not to be held up, because these things can take a long time, and I think they need to get on with it, really.
Yeah.
Perhaps we could say, Nick, something like the committee welcome the repurposing of this
Good work.
historic building. And whilst we understand the need to increase the size of the triangular dormer windows in St Nicholas Hall,
And the roof lights?
the committee are concerned about the 3 additional roof lights. is concern sufficient? Yeah, yes, Councillor Schweiger. So
Yeah, that's fine. Sorry, I was going to move on. Sorry, talk about gas heating. I didn't want to interrupt you. Sorry.
Yeah, I think bearing in mind, I mean, the cost of just maintaining a historic building like this, asking them to future-proof it, I think might be pushing it a little bit.
No, it's just that I thought that maybe electric would be better than gas in a building like this. That's all.
Oh, okay. I don't know what have they made any proposals in terms of heating?
There's some. It says gas heating somewhere. I don't know. There was an image of gas heating and the floor plan.
It's easier to protect the historic fabric using electricity than it would be putting gas services in and gas central heating in.
Yeah, it's
okay. Yeah, so perhaps we would say with a view to future-proofing, committee would like to see electric heating considered rather than the installation of a gas boiler or installation of gas boilers.
Just looking at where those roof lights are, they're in rooms that, well, I can't see the bedroom to the right, Nick. Could you shift the plan so that we can see the bedroom, what I imagine is bedroom 1, or bedroom 3. I see. So bedroom 3 wouldn't have any light at all. So I don't really care about dressing rooms and bathrooms having light, but
Yes.
bedrooms.
yes.
Generally, yeah.
And then if you don't, having 1 is worse than having 3, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I suppose a light well would be a possibility, but that might also be a bit disruptive of the building.
I hope they find the roof is not too much work to redo, because they have to redo the whole roof.
Well, they're proposing to remove all the tiles and refelt and everything.
Yeah, they have to.
Yeah.
I'd only make a point about insulation, but I don't want to add to their burden, really.
Presume that they'd put some insulation in it would make sense, wouldn't it? Well, I mean, having stripped back the roof, yeah, don't assume anything, I suppose.
It's a big job.
Yeah.
It's nice to see the back of the clutter at the rear of the building.
Yes.
I think that's,
Yeah, it'd be good to see that scaffolding and what is it? Metal.
I think it's really a positive way forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, do we leave our comment in about roof lights and let them think about it?
We can always say that we debated the impact of the roof lights on the outside, as it were. You needn't say what the result of the debate was, just.
Yeah.
I think.
All right, rather than concerned, Nick, perhaps you could change the word to the committee discussed the inclusion of additional roof lights, the 3 additional roof lights.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good swap for the concrete porch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel the heritage people will have a lot of comments internally, and we don't want to put any more barriers.
Yeah.
You know, the windows are essential, really.
Yeah, indeed.
No.
All right.
One quick footnote, Chair, and I know you're moving on quickly, but we're all Hartford councillors, and I think we don't make enough of our connection with the very rich Hartford, Connecticut. And Hartford, Connecticut contributed almost the sole amount of the build of that hall in 1890. That was contribution from the industrial place over there. I think we should exploit that in the modern age as well. But there is inside, I think, still a recognition of that. But
how might we exploit that, Councillor Ruffles? What have you got in mind?
When we need some dosh, ask them.
Right to America.
Yes, we should write to them to tell them what's happening to the building, actually.
Well, I think the applicant should.
Oh, well, suggestion.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know who you'd write to, Councillor Ruffles. Would it be what
must be a mayor or something or other.
Yeah, of course.
Always a mayor.
Is the details of the applicant redacted, Nick, on the application, or is it there in full for us to see?
I think it's Mr. Gordon Gray, isn't it? He's the owner of the site.
It's not altogether redacted. There's a bit of it still visible. I don't.
I mean, I'd be happy to contact him as a councillor just to say, did he know that the?
I think he will. I'm sure the plaque is there inside. I think he knows about it, but it might be
He
worth
might get
nudging.
some funding from them.
Hmm.
It's a great idea.
Absolutely.
Okay, we will at that point we will move on. Thank you, Councillor Ruffles. But pavement license application is that going to be the norm now, Nick? That we add them to the to paper C?
I mean, yes, if we get them in between after I've issued the agenda, it will be on paper C. If we do get one in and the deadline's too short to add to the committee,
Then you send it out.
we send out, yeah, right.
I'm with you. Yeah, okay. So the White Hart wants to extend their payment license to 7 days a week, 12:30 till 10:30 p.m. 7 days a week. Does the committee approve of that?
I guess so.
Yeah,
So,
seems reasonable. It's only till 10:30. So
Noon till 10:30, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah.
Something like that.
If that's okay.
Yeah, so yeah, so Chairman, I think this one, obviously the application's already been granted, but for the application, but they want to extend it to include market days as well, I think. That's right, and I believe there's some extra conditions attached to that. One of them is on market days, no furniture may be put on the highway until the market has finished and been packed away.
That was a concern of Councillor Barber, who spoke to me today.
There is a condition of it.
Good.
I think with that condition in place, we would be happy with this application, wouldn't we?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. You all right with that, Nick?
Yep.
Okay, on we go. So, I can close that. We'll finish with that one. So moving on then, we're on item, that's all up, item 8, which is paper D, in terms of decision notices from East Arts Council. Any observations, anyone?
You got 82 Hunterberry Road we just mentioned, which was granted, but it was granted after it had been amended in conversation with the officer. And then we've had one this evening, which is different.
Right, indeed. Okay, item 9 is licensing application. So we've got one on paper E.
Cameron, what's your advice? Do I
The
pop
Benjo Club.
myself out, or can Nick put me in a waiting room? Or
Nick, are you able to?
I can put you in a waiting room. Yep. I'm able to put you in a waiting room. Okay, I can remove you. Is that it? But I'll put in a waiting room. Yep, put it in.
Right. Are you able to share that application, or maybe just summarise it first, Nick?
Yes.
Variation of hours, is it?
It is. Right, where is the details? I had that one.
The application is 318-2751, 3/18/2751.
Where's the detail? Right, I'll just share my screen. Probably the easiest way to do it. So yeah, so it is basically to increase. So basically, as per the planning application, I mean, just basically to increase the area. So because of the extension, the building, just to make it bigger. That's to just extend the area. So
That's quite logical then.
It's as
It's
simple as
just
that.
administrative, really, isn't it? I
It
don't,
is.
Quite
don't
simple.
certainly don't have any objections myself. Anyone else?
No, that's quite logical.
All right. Yeah. So no objection.
No objections.
No objection.
Perhaps you could bring Councillor Ruffles back from the naughty step.
Okay. Okay. Let's see how do I do that?
Councillor Ruffles.
That's where was that? Okay.
Okay. Is he back?
Not yet. Where's participating? Invite. No. Good question, actually. How do I get back? There should be a button now. I can't find it.
Yes.
Forever banished.
Is it participants? Oh, found him. Yep, got him. I can admit him. Okay.
Excellent.
Oh,
I was slightly worried for a minute.
relief.
Welcome back, Councillor Ruffles.
Yeah.
Aha. So if we can move on to the next item, which is item 11, to consider changes to the current planning system. This is obviously quite a weighty tome, and thank you, Nick, for producing the summary. Having heard all sorts of stuff in the press about how they're going to relax planning
sorry.
applications. Yep, sorry.
And sorry, I think we missed item number 10.
Beg your
So,
pardon.
no, street naming and numbering.
Oh,
We did.
yeah.
Just
You're absolutely right. Thank you. Item 10. Is it a bit obvious, perhaps, to suggest that the block should be called the Albert Whirlings?
And John Gaunt.
Or John O'Gaunt, indeed.
I think
Who's more
I
famous?
would support something to do with John Gaunt because of it's a bit more authentic. Albert Whirlings is simply an invented name by the Shipton brothers. They fancied one or other of the names just out of the air, as it were.
Oh.
The Whirlings bits or the Albert bit. It became a well-known handle, so I wouldn't object to it being continued, as it were, but probably preferable is John Gaunt, which does tie in with Isabella and Edward,
Yes.
the blocks either side, which are related to the castle.
I love your history lessons, Councillor.
I'm sorry,
Love them.
I try not to look at the chairman when I'm giving them.
I love them. I like John Gaunt. Okay.
I'm more than happy to take John O'Gaunt as our. We all agreed that would be our nomination.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Ruffles, and thank you, Nick, for bringing that to my attention. On to item 11. I don't know how I managed to skip that, but changes the current plan. And I was just prefacing our discussions by the fact I thought there were all sorts of things in there about that people could build on Greenbelt, and that that local residents could vote on whether their area, their ward should be developed or not developed. But this actual consultation doesn't refer to any of that. So Nick, I just wanted to confirm really that it, even though it's 40 pages, it is relatively narrow in terms of the 4 elements you've shown in the introduction, which is changes to the standard method for assessing local housing need, securing first homes through developer contributions, temporary lifting small sites threshold, and then extending the current permission in principle for major developments. And when I look at that list and start to look at what you've summarized here, I can't really find too much to worry about, in that ultimately it still does come to a planning committee. It's just that the pre-planning consent and things like that doesn't have to be submitted.
I mean, I'm not sure that I'm interested that the government wants to kickstart the process, but I'm not sure that some SME builders, developers, I should say, are really suffering at the moment, or that they're deterred in any way from bringing forward developments. So what I feel here is that this is a sneaky way of simply reducing the commitment to affordable housing in developments. And I don't believe that, I mean, it says that this is a temporary thing, but I simply, so is income tax, and we're still paying that. So I don't believe that. So I'm skeptical, put it that way, about the need to support SME builders as the economy recovers. So I've nothing against SME builders, but I don't believe that they're deterred. In fact, I'm sure they're just as keen on making money now as they were before.
Well, they're not shy in this area for sure.
No, it's a nonsense.
I mean, I think it's fair to observe that a significant part of our economy is driven by SMEs.
Sure.
And I think there's quite a lot of land being sat on at the moment by those same SMEs. And I don't know whether this would act to kickstart or to, promote an acceleration in terms of the activity of SMEs, and that in itself boosts employment and all the rest of it.
Well,
Mr. Chairman, can I ask for some clarification, Mr. Chairman, what we need to do today? The reason I'm asking for that is because it's about 46 pages long. There was a link. We had the chance to read through this, and Nick's done a very valiant attempt at trying to give us the nuts and bolts of what we might have to decide. But I feel, I mean, the consultation goes on to the 26th of October, doesn't it? And many people feed into this, architects, town and country people, everybody. And overall, I'm wondering why this has come forward. And I need some time to think about this and see what other people say, because by the time all these caveats which protect our land and development are removed, it's a dangerous open door to developers. That's one concern. And then who's going to have on the ground say, i.e., as we are discussing now, elected representatives of the people of Hertford? We've just spent an hour having some input, on the ground input into planning. And if this goes in its entirety and becomes cast in stone, that will cease. So you're almost doing away with local democracy, because the decision making will be in the hands of a few. And it's, say we move to unitary councils in 2, 3, 4 years' time, fewer people than ever will be able to say what they do or do not want. So I'd like to ask if we could come back and look at this a little bit later, like in October, when we've had more of a feel of some of the comments that other people are going to start putting into this white paper.
I would support.
Incredibly complex.
I would support that to an extent. I certainly agree with Councillor Pinkham about being a sceptic about the direction of travel, the social housing part of it, and also clearly making a shift away from the local planning controls, because local means that, and planning committees across the country still do have a certain amount of regional local flexibility, and we're moving away from that. But what slightly worries me is what is going to happen to our comments, and I think aren't we just feeding into a collective local council's comment?
We are, yes. So on the second page of Nick's note, item 4, consultation, there's 46 questions we're supposed to address and feed into the National Association of Local Councils by the 17th of September.
Yes.
Is in a week's, 10 days time before our next meeting. It's very short order for sure.
I personally would hope that Nick could just pull together something
Yeah, Nick wants to talk.
broad, and if the direction, if we're agreed broadly speaking, then I think broadly speaking to the National Association of Local Councils should be what we deliver. But that
Yes.
wouldn't stop Councillor Newton's further thoughts being added, should she bring it back to this committee at a later date, where we might respond direct,
As a town council,
as it were.
indeed.
But I think the present task is to feed into a big collective local councils thing.
Yeah. Have you got our concerns, Nick, or do we need to summarise those again?
Chairman, yeah, it would be worth summarising if you could do, please. And then what we could do, I can feed that to the National Association of Local Councils,
Yeah.
and if the committee wishes to do a more detailed response to consider this, to feed to the main consultation, they can do. Also, just to make the committee aware, there are I think 2 other consultation documents that may be coming up as well in relation to planning. So, I've seen it's had sight of as well. So there is some further developments that may either come to this committee or to the Development and Leisure Committee, who may have to see it. So just to make the committee aware.
Can I just say one more thing about these government consultations? I mean, quite obviously, the Local Government Association will be producing comments on these things, and they're obviously in a much stronger position than we are. But we ought to really, if we possibly can, get to see the Local Government Association's comments, because I think that we may find ourselves simply suggesting to NOUT that they endorse them with certain additional points in relation to local councils. But without seeing where the LGA, which represents the major planning authorities, is going, I find myself at a bit of a loss.
Well, perhaps I could just summarise. I'll just wait for Nick. I mean, I think our main concerns, I think there's probably 3 or 4, Nick.
Just Chairman, just about time as well, because it's only 3 minutes before
Oh my goodness.
Personnel Subcommittee, so I need to be out, close this meeting.
Indeed.
Just
Do you want to close it now then? Is that what you're saying?
If the committee wishes to summarise the points, then tie up. And then
I will draft something and forward it to you, copying everyone in.
That'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of the agenda, I think we might be nearly through. We are pretty much. Maybe we could put this on the agenda as item for a future agenda in terms of Councillor Newton's comments about maybe us making a submission directly as well as through NALC.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, everyone, for your attention. Presumably some of you are going to dial off and back on again.
Yes, absolutely. Thank
right.
you very much.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. That's brilliant. Very good.
Close the meeting at 19:28. Right.